To this now, the Agricultural Sector's Energy Summit is taking place over 2 days in Rawsonville in the Western Cape. It will be looking at ways to respond to Eskom's rolling blackouts while growing the economy as a means of creating jobs and increasing food security. Let's go to senior reporter Ayesha Ismail, who is there. Ayesha, quite interesting that this happens in Rawsonville, where a lot of communities, especially in disadvantaged parts of that farming town, have had their homes uprooted by the floods.
That is indeed so, but I guess these conferences and summits are arranged way ahead, and I don't think that they expected, the floods to happen and have this impact that it has had on the farming community and rural community here in Rawsonville. Having said that, the impact of the rolling blackouts in South Africa and the impact that it's having on food security, on job security, and also economic growth is being unpacked at this summit here in Rawsonville. Now, it's an energy summit specifically dealing with the agricultural sector, and as you just alluded to, the floods, farmers have gone through a lot. First they had droughts, then we had COVID-19, and of course now the rolling blackouts. But I'm now joined by the NEC for Agriculture here in the Western Cape. Dr. Ivan Meyer, what exactly is the extent of the damages, so to speak, caused by the rolling blackouts?
Well, firstly, Ayesha, we have about 17,000 farmers here in the Western Cape, and 90% of all the farmers are dependent on electricity provided by Eskom. And we know what is the current challenges with energy generation within Eskom. So this is a huge challenge here in the Western Cape. And 90% of all the farmers that are dependent on energy are also subjected to regular load shedding. And we know what is the total cost of load shedding, particularly if you're at a level 6 load shedding. Here, it's about 2.4 billion rand loss of income. And so that has a massive knock-on effect on the input costs on agriculture. And for us, this is very seriously, because we also know that many of our farmers, 50% of all the energy that is generated is used by irrigation farmers. And this is very important for us because that is critical, particularly in the period of October up to March next year. So this has a massive knock-on effect on the agricultural sector. We've also heard this morning here at this conference that it's about 3.4% additional to the input cost on agriculture. That's primary agriculture in the context of secondary agriculture. In other words, the knock-on effect on the agro-processing is in the region of 1.4%. So it has a massive knock-on effect on agriculture here in the Western Cape.
Now we know what the problems are. What are the solutions?
Well, that is particularly why we are here, to find solutions for the energy crisis here in the Western Cape. We look at the number of alternative green and sustainable energy solutions, things like hydropower. We particularly think of one of the options that was mentioned here from the Congress, and people have spoken to Eskom about the possibility of generating more hydropower. We've also seen the Premier of the Western Cape also launching hydrogen power here in the Western Cape, but also in addition the issue of wind power. One of the options that was just mentioned now is gas to power solutions, but we also know small-scale generation, working with municipality, reducing the red tape in the generation capacity. All of these are very, very important, but also containerized modular generating facilities that we want to place at certain municipality, feeding energy into the municipal grids. So all of these options are on the table, but many of these big cost implications for farmers, and that's why we have also received presentations here today that there are also an agriculture energy fund, and we are discussing with the land bank how farmers and organized agriculture and small-scale farmers can actually access the agriculture energy fund to make it a little bit more feasible for farmers, because these are additional input costs into agriculture here in the Western Cape.
I was just going to talk to you about the cost to farmers. People talk about alternative energy, but it's expensive to have solar panels installed, to buy generators, to buy diesel. How are farmers, particularly the small-scale farmers, coping at the moment?
Well, we know that small-scale farmers are having a particular hard time because more than 50% of their cost is coming from energy generating capacity, and this has a massive knock-on effect. But in terms of the Land Bank and the National Department of Rural Development, there are some financial support, energy funding support, and we would hope that the national government and the Land Bank will make those funding regulatory framework easy so that people can access the fund. As you rightly pointed out, it is very expensive. We've heard here today, for example, some of the farmers are spending 100,000 rand per month on diesel, and that is not sustainable because we need to move away from fossil fuel, and that is making it very, very expensive for farmers. So we have to move towards sustainable, green and alternative energy, and that includes wind and solar. But as you rightly pointed out, solar is becoming more and more expensive. It adds another input cost into the agriculture value chain.
Thank you so much for your time. And that was Ivan Meyer, the MEC for Agriculture here in the Western Cape.
All right, senior reporter Ayesha Ismail speaking to us live from Rawsonville in the Western Cape.